Now I'm going to take the time to implement some of my cooler color into the areas that I need to, and I'm to define this island back here, right? I'm going to, while the tree is still transparent, I'm going to deepen that island with some blue, using a denser color. I'm going to just add in some detail in the distance there. Okay. Focusing the color. Right. Using that violet consistently. Large waves, large shadows. Okay. Defining things graphically. Using my cool color away from the light. Okay, here's where I'm gonna work that landscape. Again, my color on that landscape here in the foreground is it's going to be a color that has less red in it. All right, because it's furthest from the light. Right, so I'm using like a indigo blue. It's a blue with a little red in it. And everything's falling into place, you see? It's the shadow size of the rocks. Okay. Shadow side of things. Right. Nice, right? Add a darker value of blue into these rocks here. Give it that kind of pebble feel. Those highlights, as if the light is glistening off the rocks there. shoreline texture, dark sand. Right, that's further from the light, and you can see how the light is starting to now focus down in the middle of the painting where it should be, right? My cool colors are being applied away from the light. Okay, and now I'm going to dry the painting a little bit, right? And clean my palette off a little bit, and now I'm looking, we're at the point at which we will start sharpening up the painting, all right? Deepening the values where they need to be. Creating some detail on the boat here, okay? On the grass, the tree is going to get really dark in a sense, okay? And just go back and start to add detail, deepening the chroma a little bit where it needs to be, right? And I'm going to soften these clouds that are in the distance here a little bit. And I have a little orange on my brush so that it works together with the color that's down there. Okay. I'm always conscious of where the light's coming from. The light is always kind of brighter on the horizon in the sunset, like that. Okay. And so now, let's just put a little more color down here. It's a little too contrasty. Okay. Alrighty. And now we can take a slightly smaller brush. We've got our blue there, and I'm going to mix a darker value and add some of that detail into the brush, into the sailboat, right? So a little slightly denser color. Okay. Nice and dark, right? So we said there's a couple little people there, right? The transom would be dark along there, and then the underside of the boat along here would be darker. Okay. Then the bowsprit, the front part there, and then the other side, right? Most important part, the mast, right? That's right there, right? There we go. Right, always working on the shadow side, right? And then the boom, right? gaff rigged boom up here. Right. There would be some lines. Right. Okay. Right, for now that's pretty good. Can define that sail a little better. Okay. And there would be some dark reflections here. Okay. Nice, right? So now that was the fine brush. It's about as fine as we want to get. And we can, again, define that little wake there that's coming off the boat. Sailing ship, good. Okay, now let's see how now the sailboat really separated from the distance now. Okay, and we can take the medium-sized brush and we're going to define the tree. And so we're going to need to create a dark value again. Dark value of violet, more to the blue side. And this is going to create that silhouette, right? So I'm going to be putting this down on the darker side of the tree trunk, right? Away from the light, right? On this side, right? The sun's coming out on the other side. And this is where I can add some of the detail, right? And this whole side would be in that darker side of the tree. Always working the branches and the foliage on the darker side of things. Right, as if the sun, see the way the sun's hitting that side, right, so this is where there's a lot of detail involved. All right, and the foliage is a texture, and again I'm going to put it on the darker side of things, right? And see how that's now separating from the background, from the from the distance. Okay, and these branches up here very dark, right? And so this is on the darker side of the foliage, right? The darker side of the foliage. Darker side. Right, working the darker side of the foliage. Okay. Leaves. Right. Just dab them in there. Use a slightly finer brush to do some of these branch work. Right, but this is further from the light. Right, this would be further from the light over here. Okay, furthest from the light. Okay. And I'm using a very dense value of this color, right? About as dense as you can get. See how the coverage is very, and I'm drawing the coverage is very strong. Right? And I'm imagining the light being on the left side. So I'm not using much water in this. I'm using quite a bit of, you can see how thick it is, right? Right, and at the top of the tree, the branches get thinner. So you can see how I'm using the tip of the brush to get that effect. Again, I'm on the shadow side of things. Okay, see how the leaves are brighter over here, darker on this side. Okay. Put some red in there. Brighter, it's closer to the light. Working the shadow side of this foliage. Okay. It's really starting to separate from the background. And look at how you can see the light coming through the tree from the back there. Beautiful. Right? And when the paint is drier like this, right? When it's dense, it graphically stands out. Okay. And you want to do that right in a couple choice spots. Make sure the branches some are further away, some are closer, so we can leave some of them light, some of them dark. Right, there's a couple on the leaves on the darker side of the darker side. Okay. Nice. Okay, nice
Okay,
contrast.
so now we're going to continue to add detail. Okay, and we're going to be working throughout the painting, adding some detail. Now, the one thing that I see is where some of the cool colors can play a role. Okay, pushing that away. Just using a little bit of blue in the shadow areas. All right. Right, these areas are further from the sun, focusing the light to the sun even more. Okay. Use a slightly larger brush here, the medium. No, this is the large. Hit some. It'll dry back. Okay. Leaving that bright there for the contrast. Nice large reflections on the top of those waves. Beautiful. Okay. Again, working away from the light with these darker values, forcing the light into that area. Softening things. Further from the light. See how now it's nicely focused. Okay. It's in the shadow area, so I'm adding cool light into here, cool color. Okay. Notice how I'm using very thin layers, maintaining that transparency. Right. As I darken these areas. Now, what I want to do is I want to add some of that detail in the foreground. First I see something here. Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna work into the foreground a little bit, adding some detail. Right, so I'm gonna employ that thick, dense color, right? And since the light's coming this way, everything perceived to be is gonna be, on the shadow side, is gonna be fairly dark, right? So we're always working on the shadow side of things. Okay. Reinforcing the structure of the light. Right. Nice. Okay, staying on the shadow side. Thin branches at the top. Okay. Okay, now we're going to work on some of this grass in the foreground. Okay, and I want to get a nice dense value. Nice. And I'm going to use the tip of my brush, some of the detail. And you know, again, working on the shadow side of things. Make a little bushy growth, right, with some grass. Okay, working on the shadow side of things. Okay, nice contrast from the lights to darks. Okay, and as we get further from the light, the color can get bluer and bluer. Look at that nice indigo. This would all be in the shadow area. Right. Some stones, rocks. Right. Okay. And then some touches to the grass here. Maybe some bushes type thing.
texture, bushes, rose hips or something growing along the shoreline there. Okay. I think there's a little path there or something. Okay. All right. Add some texture here. Okay. Creating these achromatic colors. Okay. Give some of that texture to the bark of the tree. And we can go a shade darker with some of this work on the tree. Okay. By being a little bit more on the blue side. Okay. And I'm gonna just right on the shadow side of the, emphasizing that. Shadow side. Distance. Point there. Okay. Okay. Sharpen up some of these contrasts here. There's a nice atmospheric focus there. Okay.
you know, checking the values. Might want to just increase one of the reflection values here on the water. It's way in the foreground. Can afford to be a little more contrasty. Okay, and there we are. We have a landscape, okay, with a seascape incorporated. Okay. Yeah. Just want to solidify some of this a little bit. Okay. All right. The light is permeating the whole composition here. Okay. Okay. Warm colors. All right, so there we have. Okay, and then the cool colors encompass the light nicely, right? Could still add some, but we keep it nice and airy and open. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Transparent sails. The light seems to be coming right through there. Okay. See little things that I can work on further from the light. Okay. And there you go. And the sun hitting the foliage there, that red's being picked up. Okay. And seeing things we could do to just okay. All right. And there you go. A little seascape. Okay, so you can see how we followed the template, right? Our light source. Oh, look at that. We forgot to put in a few seagulls. Look at that, right? So we want to make a dark value. Right, I'm going to use a small brush, and I'm going to put in a couple seagulls. Put one in the distance. There you go. And one up here. There you go. Couple of seagulls. Okay. All right, so as you can see, we followed the template, right? We have the light source, everything's emanating from that light energy, right? We have a horizon line, we have that island in the midground, okay? And then we have our sailboat in the coming out of the harbor here, and then the foreground, right, which is the darkest, the densest, right? So from light, soft to dark and sharp, okay? And I can see where I can, along the edge of that, on that island, I can just put in some bushes. You know, give it some detail. Okay, and that's pretty much it, right? So there we go. Nope, another little detail. Put a little pendant on the sailboat. Okay. Focused light. There we go.